All right, welcome to another Boots the Suits episode. Ruben Hernandez, USMC, as usual, accompanied by James Pitts. We call him Doc, an FMF corpsman, and then Herbert Garcia as well, USMC, combat Marine as well. So, and we have a special guest, Ben. Welcome to the studio.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to have you, brother. And so we're going to talk a little bit about your background, and also the Boots the Suits program, what it's meant to you, what you're getting out of it, certain aspects of it, some wins and some losses, pros and cons. But really the underlying mission is to help fellow, we call them warriors that have served and worn the uniform, either segue out of active duty, or if they're already a veteran, in your case, that served for so many years, really help mitigate a lot of the issues that we're facing, in the veteran community, and also try to help as many as possible, hopefully avoid or mitigate those issues. And so it's great to have you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to be here. So just a quick, simple, just a little bit about your background, where you served, how long you served.
Yeah, so for my background, in the Navy, I retired as a Chief Petty Officer at E7. I spent most of my career with the Marines, some hospital ship time, no real ship time, but some hospital time. The rest was all with Marines. Did just shy of 22 years. Yeah.
22 long, glorious, issue-free,
well,
no BS. Yeah, right.
We'll leave that for a different
We all
discussion.
know better. We're pretty transparent on this podcast.
Yeah.
So, but first off, thanks for your service on that. And you work the Marines. All right. Well, that's good to go. We appreciate you for sure.
Yeah. Hoorah.
Hoorah. We appreciate you. Patch us up, put us back out. So, but that being said, so the Boots the Suits program, or even before the Boots the Suits program, just the time on active duty, right? Obviously, you had a lot go on, different areas, different campaigns. Any campaigns in particular?
So I did several deployments to Iraq, one to Afghanistan, and a bunch of other smaller deployments with like the Army and the Air Force, other places. But I would say each deployment had a unique aspect to it, right? So OIF-1 was my first combat deployment. I'd done the UEP to Japan prior to that. Was unique in and of itself because that was, first time in combat, first time for the U.S. forces to going back into a war combat zone after a long time. So there wasn't a whole lot of senior leadership left around that had been into, the Gulf Wars. Mm-hmm. So that was a unique time period. I would say my 2006-2007 casualty evacuation deployment was probably my most challenging, rewarding, and challenging, hardest one for me to deal with, just because of the number of patients and casualties I had to deal with. Sure. But like I said, because of that also was why it was one of the most rewarding. And then I think those are the two that stand out for the most. Afghanistan was really good. Wasn't so much as challenging as it was just, that was a really rewarding deployment. Mm-hmm. That was a really cathartic deployment for me, if that makes any sense at all.
By all means, it does. Yeah, I mean, and having served in combat theaters of operation, first off, tremendous amount of respect for what you and Doc Pitts did as well. And obviously, for us, when we have to do a field dressing or patch somebody up temporarily, you see the longevity of it. You mm-hmm. see the longevity, patch us up, medevac, but you have to really help make that situation more stable for a longer duration of time, and you see really the ins and outs where right. We kind of just see it and then we just continue on with the mission. So tremendous amount of respect for what you and Doc Pitts have done. So and thank you for sharing, because I know sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable, and for you to do that, I can tell you right now, a lot of the viewers and listeners would benefit, and they're probably nodding their heads saying, "Man, yeah, I remember. Yeah, it wasn't fun. Super rewarding, as you mentioned, invaluable. Beyond words. So thanks again for what you've done."
Yep.
Let's segue into the Boots the Suits program, and obviously some listener viewers will say, "Man, how did you go from that and that mindset and some of the challenges you're facing, obviously, with the aftermath when the dust settles of all those experiences, and then real estate? Like, how did that segue happen for you?"
So towards the end of my career, James actually helped me purchase my first home, which was a super fun, enjoyable experience. I always thought that, biggest purchase of my life. I thought it was going to be super stressful, hard, challenging. It was scary before going into it. But then once we got started, though, James eliminated all my fears about that. It actually went really smooth. Had a blast doing it. And then I would that was when I was transitioning out. So I spent the next like year and a half, not really working, not really doing much. I didn't really have much planned when I got out, and I was struggling with some of my own issues and stuff. And he brought it back up again, real estate issues or real estate, and brought up about boots and suits as an opportunity. And I looked at it as as a challenge, because I hadn't been doing anything challenging for the past year and a half, 2 years, which was, dragging me down. And it made me feel comfortable about it. And so it made sense. I needed to break out of my mold. I needed to do something. Plus, what I had learned, some of the things I had learned when I purchased my home was how valuable real estate is for generating wealth. Sure. I'd listened to other podcasts and I'd been read some books and stuff about that, and so I wanted to get into that niche somehow, to get into that field. So it just all kind of lined up at a perfect timing for me.
Yeah, so this kind of just was a smooth, and from that respect, transition, because you had somebody with credibility, somebody that helped you in the
Right.
past with your personal purchase. Obviously, if you had not made that transaction as smooth as it sounds like it was, then it would have been more of a detriment than it would
And
be.
for us, between James and I, like James and I have known each other for quite a while. When we first met at Balboa, I think in like 2004, and we kind of
E4s running around.
Baby force.
we were E4s running around the hospital, like just running the program. Everyone in the hospital came to all the E4s, all the third classes at the time, all the LPOs, for like how to get shit done or how to get stuff done. So because of that, like rapport that him and I had from a long-standing time period, yeah, it just made it seamless.
Yeah, so that's just badass, man. The fact that you guys got to work together and build a rapport and a relationship,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's kind of what in the military in general, we look back and there is a lot of BS. We all know that. There's no secret to that. But the fact that we're there for one another, and got each other's backs, and we're building this relationship is kind of what we remember when we're old and salty, looking back and like, remember that time in the hospital when I was chasing you with morphine, trying to inject you. Hopefully, you weren't doing that.
No.
But that's cool, man. Really appreciate that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Boots and Suits program.
So you've gone through 12 weeks of the program. Can you talk about, from the beginning, you really didn't know anything? I mean, you kind of knew more than most students because you went through your house, and the way we did it, you saw every piece of paperwork. You saw what I was doing. He was basically in the transaction. Mm-hmm. So can you just talk about from just the progression of the course?
Yeah, absolutely. The progression of the course, we started off with, I think, social media aspects and some of that stuff, which was great and phenomenal. I learned a lot in that. I'm not very social media savvy, so that was a big bonus. And then getting into the contracts and the scenarios, split it up with didactics, classroom training with practical applications, progressing forward. One of the great things too, though, at the same time, simultaneously, while teaching us throughout this internship, the Boost Suits program, the aspects of real estate and getting us comfortable with the knowledge base and communicative aspects of it all. At the same time, also, there's a lot of like life guidance and help that's been brought along at the same time. It's a well-rounded program that way, which has been super helpful for me coming out of the military and dealing with the PTSD and some of the things I have been dealing with. That's been a huge aspect of kind of getting me back on track and kind of well-rounded.
I think it's great that you see the value in that. And so on a different podcast show, we had a guest say something similar, and we told him, the underlying mission of the program is not about the Boots of Suits. It's about you. It's about making sure your life is as great as it can be. And as you mentioned, in your case, you see value in creating generational wealth or
Right.
increasing the net wealth, right? And so we want to fill that gap. We want to reinforce whatever you feel is most beneficial
And
to
what's great is like I was saying, it's not just this program isn't just about that, because you could take the real estate aspect out of it,
Sure.
and then take everything that you learned from here and still apply it to whatever venture you're going into, whether it's entrepreneurial or if it's just, your life at home. There's a lot of lessons taken away from this that apply to all of that.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, I mean, we've all lost friends, to suicide and things of that sort. And, you mentioned Desert Storm, the storm earlier. And so, yeah, so that era, it was more reactive. Like, we had to come back from theater and kind of figure things out. This is kind of a preemptive way of preparing, those that wore the uniform to create that sustainable business model for their life, et cetera. So, and obviously, underlying mission is to make life better and prevent a lot of the craziness that we're seeing in the veteran community with regard to suicides and things of that sort. So, the fact that you're seeing that value is tremendous, and I think a testament to what these two gentlemen are doing as well to help prepare. So, great job on that to you all.
I want to take a moment to talk about a sponsor of the podcast, EGA Homes. Now, I'm not just a host of the show, I'm also the owner of EGA Homes. So let's get real about this. Look, I get it. The real estate market can be a maze. Navigating the real estate market is stressful, and the last thing you want is to get lost in the shuffle. We're not just another real estate brokerage. We're your partners in this journey. We've got a team of dedicated professionals who know the ins and outs of the market. Your needs, your concerns, and your dreams for a new home are what drive us. We're here to guide you, to advocate for you, and to make sure you're not just buying a house, you're investing in a home. Check us out at egahomes.com. We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor of the show, MG3 Media. MG3 Media specializes in real estate media and marketing. If you are looking for an experienced team to capture incredible photos, videos, and virtual tours for your listings, MG3 Media is the team for you. Their photos have been featured in multiple magazines, and they have been trusted to create stunning videos for multi-million-dollar listings all across Southern California. Right now, MG3 Media is offering listeners of the Boots to Suits podcast 25% off their first photo shoot. Just go to mg3-media.com and click schedule now. Use promo code BOOTS2SUITS. That's Boots, the number 2 Suits, and get 25% off your next listing photos. And now, back to the show.
So when we started the program and we were actually creating the program, one of our biggest goals were to be able to take combat vets and put them through a program and to be able to provide them with the support that they need. Because there's a huge decline in civilian companies, right? They'll put you through an internship, but they don't care about you. You're a dollar sign. They don't care if you didn't sleep last night or if you had nightmares or you're just struggling that day, right? Do you feel that we achieved that goal of being able to provide support and still being able to teach what we're trying to teach in real estate?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. And I think this would have been great. So I joined in with this Boost of Suits after I'd already been out of the military for, close to 2 years. Now it's hard to say, retrospectively and going back and saying, would this have made a complete difference if I had done this during the transition period to what some of the stuff I was dealing with on the outside after I got out? But it definitely would have been beneficial. It would have helped a tremendous amount, keeping me on track, or orientated in the right directions.
Sure.
Yeah.
So even though it's only been obviously 12 weeks, can you talk about what growth you've seen in yourself just from the short period that you've been here?
Yeah. So time blocking is like being on time, time management and stuff that's for me personally, that's like a huge growth aspect that I've picked up throughout this that, I don't know if it was not necessarily like, it isn't necessarily the purpose of the program, but it's built in there with it. You know what I mean? And so that's like a big growth that I've noticed recently.
That's cool. And I can remember the first time I met you just prior to day one, and then as you were in the program, when I got to see you, it seemed like, at first you were just diagnosing. I don't know if that's your personality to kind of like check out the lay of the land. And then now, because we got to do the role play for a listing presentation yesterday, you were like, yeah, I got that. And as your prospective seller, that was my role. I felt comfortable. Your delivery, your presentation, I was like, man, this guy's got it. Like you have that ability.
I can't deny that the comfortability aspect of this as we progress and go along has gotten like pretty good. And that just comes with repetition.
Sure.
But because of the knowledge that we're learning and the understanding that we're gaining, it makes the confidence and comfortability, so much better.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. I think and I know I went through it. I know Doc went through it. Transitioning out and not having a purpose is big because we're just sitting there, right? Time, our mentality just kind of goes down the drain. By taking on this new career, whether it's real estate or what else, it's given me a purpose. It's given me more drive. And like you said, it's forced me to have to open up and grow and essentially work on those PTSD symptoms, even though I may not necessarily correlate it now, rather than just being hidden in a cave, you're kind of growing. So I know I've seen the growth in myself in the time that I've been doing it. I've seen it in Doc being there with him, and I've seen it in you in these 12 weeks. So I look forward to seeing where you're going to be at. I'm sure.
You mentioned purpose, which is something that Doc has talked to me about from get-go. Like you need to do something. You need to have a purpose. Otherwise, it's just going to get rough for you. Of course, I didn't listen right away. But he was right, you know what I mean? I needed a purpose, I needed a goal. And what's great about this is that this gives me a purpose. It's not just a purpose internally for myself, but I can see how I can help other people throughout this process, and that's the purpose. As a corpsman, you know, as a medic and a corpsman for so long, just 22 years, helping people is kind of what's in my nature. So since I can see that in this program, it just only makes sense to me.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Ben, and you as well, Herbert. And I can tell you, you know, as the older guy now, even, you know, being, you know, removed, you know, from active duty for so many years, coming back to this group really has done the same thing for me. It's allowed me to kind of put things in perspective, hearing stories, you know, that you all have had, and now you as well. So I think collectively as a group, pretty powerful, man. Not only to help us and help, you know, the cohort grow and expand and having a great career, but also to address some of the issues that maybe some of us have been suppressing for a long time, man. So thank you for doing that. I'd never even mentioned that to you all, but I think I've been a better person just being around you as well. So thank you. And bringing up the issue of PTSD, I know that's something that a word now or an acronym, what have you, that people throw around a lot. And obviously having, you know, been in combat theaters of operation, it's something that's impacted you. Hopefully you're starting to see, you know, like you said, you got passion and purpose. Hopefully that's helping mitigate some of those issues.
Oh, definitely.
Hopefully.
It has for sure.
Yeah, nothing's perfect.
When you were talking about time blocking, you mentioned that you grew from time blocking. I don't know if I would say you grew from it. I would say maybe you reinstated it, because if you think back of what we used to do, being at the battalion, it's a training plan, right? It's your daily training plan.
Yeah.
You just went back to it, and now you're able to hold it again. And it's like, what our purpose was to create a school or an environment where combat vets can thrive and not have to be worried about their disabilities. That was our biggest thing, because I feel that a lot of the guys with PTSD are too scared to step out of their shell and to go try and attempt something because they're too scared to fail.
Yeah.
And where they're at right now, one little failure can definitely derail them. And I think it's just about saying, screw it, this is what I need to do, and I just need to find some purpose. And that's what you did. You know, you went basically into a dark room, not knowing what you were going to be taught, not knowing what was going to go on, but you've excelled. You've excelled a lot in this course.
That's something that I noticed throughout my military career too, though, was the times that I was being challenged and it was difficult were the times that I grew the most, and the times I look most favorably back upon.
Yeah, man. So I remember,
because there's purpose. When there's no purpose is when it gets rough for us.
Yeah, and I remember talking about that too at Bastard's Cantina. That's a plug for Nick and his crew out there in Temecula. So, but I remember back in the day when we were talking about this program, that was part of the conversations. Is like, this cannot only be about real estate. There has to be a bigger picture. We want to make sure. And Herbert asked, well, what happens if we're in the program, and Doc said as well, if we're in the program and one of our cohort participants kind of goes a little bit MIA, or like, we have to be prepared for that kind of stuff. And so to hear that how it's been incorporated directly, but also subliminally, I think is pretty badass. I really do.
And what's pretty cool is to hear, that was a concern in the beginning, but the growth that we all grew together, right? Being together every single day, that actually was never even an issue, nor even was a thought throughout that course. There was nobody we were concerned about. It was quite the opposite. The text messages were, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can you help me with this? And then I was hopping on my computer to help them out with whatever they were doing.
I think a lot of that has to do with getting everything being presented to us in such a way that it was easy to get our buy-in and our motivation to accomplish it. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's critical. Like that's a great point you make, because I think when something's meant to be, it just flows. We're not trying to fit a square in a circle slot. We're not forcing it. It flows. And the fact that even though we're from different eras and served at different times, well, there's some overlap, but still the fact that it just kind of flowed, man, and we started to see the value and how we could bring it together and what the underlying mission was. We all shared that same value. And so I think that made it a lot easier because all we had to do at that point was fill in the gaps, the 12-week course and all those other things. But the criticality of having the value system and what our underlying mission is was critical to developing the program. So right. I'm glad you saw the value. You kind of were one of the early founders or one of the early participants of the program. So yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, Ben, thanks again for your time and thanks for being so transparent, with your experiences and what you're, in the program as well. Of course. Thanks to you gentlemen as well as usual, our partners in the Boots to Suits program. So I guess we'll end with this, would you recommend this program to others?
Oh, I think that's an easy yes. That's for sure an easy yes.
Okay. We appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And the fact you're seeing the value, obviously this relationship is going to extend well beyond. Obviously it started well before the program and it's going to extend for life as well. So it's great to call you a brother. It's great to see that you're getting the value of the program and we look forward to great things from you.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Hoorah.